It was Halloween night, and like most kids our age, me and my friends were out trick-or-treating. We were all between 13 and 15 years old enough to go out alone, but still young enough to care about free candy. There were 4 of us, me, Kevin, Alex, and Jason. We had already hit most of the houses in the neighborhood, but we were determined to fill our bags to the top. As the night went on, the streets started to empty. The little kids had long gone home, and only a few groups of older kids were still out, causing trouble or hitting the last few houses. We came across a house at the end of a dark cul-de-sac. It was one of those older houses that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. The windows were dark, and there was no Halloween decoration outside, but the porch light was on, which was always a sign that someone had candy. Jason was the one who suggested we go up. None of us were particularly eager to knock on such a creepy-looking house, but we were competitive, and the thought of extra candy pushed us forward. We walked up to the porch, and Kevin knocked on the door. It was quiet for a moment, and we were about to turn around when the door creaked open. Standing in the doorway was a man, probably in his late 40s or early 50s. He was tall and thin, wearing a plaid shirt and jeans that looked too big for him. His face was pale, and there was something off about his smile. It didn't reach his eyes. "Trick or treat," we said in unison, trying to keep things normal. He stared at us for a second before his smile widened.
"Oh, you kids are just in time. I have some special candy inside if you want. Why don't you come in?"
The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. We all exchanged glances, unsure of what to do. This wasn't normal. Usually people just handed out candy and closed the door. But before we could say anything, the man stepped aside, motioning us in. Alex, who always tried to act tough, shrugged and stepped forward. "Come on, guys. He probably just has good candy." Reluctantly, we followed Alex into the house. The inside was just as creepy as the outside, dimly lit with a weird smell in the air, like something rotting. There was no sign of any candy bowls or Halloween decorations. The man closed the door behind us, locking it with an audible click.
"Wait here. I'll go get the candy,"
he said, disappearing into another room. We stood there awkwardly in the dim living room, none of us saying a word. I noticed Jason was looking around nervously, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Something wasn't right. We should have left the second we walked in, but now the door was locked, and we didn't know how to get out without causing a scene. After what felt like forever, the man came back, but he wasn't holding candy. Instead, he had a small, rusted knife in his hand, grinning like a maniac.
"I have something fun planned for you kids,"
he said in a low, almost whispery voice. Panic set in immediately. Kevin stepped back, bumping into a table, knocking over a lamp that shattered on the floor. "We need to go," I whispered to the others. But the man moved closer, waving the knife in front of him.
"You're not leaving yet. I haven't shown you the best part of the night."
He lunged at us, and that's when everything turned to chaos. Alex grabbed a chair and threw it at the man, hitting him square in the chest. The man stumbled backward, dropping the knife. That was our chance. We bolted for the door, but when we tried to unlock it, we couldn't get it open. The lock was one of those old-fashioned ones that you had to twist just right, and in our panic, none of us could figure it out. The man recovered quickly, picking up the knife again, his eyes wild and crazed. He came at us again, and this time Jason shoved a bookshelf over, blocking his path. We were trapped, and it felt like every second was dragging on forever. Finally, Kevin managed to unlock the door, and we all scrambled out into the night. We ran as fast as we could, not looking back. My lungs burned, and my legs felt like jelly, but I didn't stop until we were far away from that house. We didn't talk much on the way back home. The adrenaline was still pumping through my veins, and I couldn't stop shaking. When we got back to my house, we told our parents everything. At first, they didn't believe us. They thought we were just making up a wild Halloween story. But when they saw how terrified we were, they called the cops. The police went to the house later that night, but when they got there, the man was gone. The house was completely empty, like no one had lived there in years. They found the broken lamp and the bookshelf we knocked over, but other than that, there was no sign of the man. To this day, I have no idea what his plan was or how long he had been watching us. But every Halloween, when I see kids trick-or-treating alone, I can't help but wonder if they'll end up at the wrong house like we did.